And it is possible. I tried doing this with one example of the consumer society, which is IKEA. And they let me in to try and turn IKEA into a cultural center. Is that mad? No, because if you look at what goes on in a supermarket, everybody comes in and nobody talks to anybody else, and they look around at the objects, and they are not interested in the fact that who made that chair? Who made these lampshades? Who made these objects? And I went to India to see where they made their lampshades. And there were hundreds of women working away making lampshades. And there was never any contact between the person who bought a lampshade in the IKEA store and the woman who made it. Why? We have now all this new kind of communication. Why are we not taking interest in people in the way that we can, instead of just shopping anonymously? And we put all sorts of cultural activities into IKEA, and we taught children how to play the ukulele, for example, and we got people who couldn't speak English, we gave them English lessons, and we had poetry and dancing and Indian dancing in it and so on. And people were puzzled by this, but some of them had never seen Indian dancing in their life. And they did not know how sophisticated, how superior this kind of dancing is to the simplistic and elementary kind of dances that they are used to. And how Indian dancing is a conversation with the gods, and every gesture means something. In other words, people need to be familiarized with what the world contains, with the people contained in the world. And that is what culture is. It is bringing people together. And the function of artists, one ought to think about, because artists used to be employed by the church and the king as a kind of advertising agency to reinforce their splendor. And then they rebelled against this and became independent people, asserting their individuality and rebelling against conformity, and of course putting themselves outside society to a large extent. But I don't think that is the final stage of artistic development. I think artists can also, if they incorporate what I've been saying into their strategies, if they see that they can be catalysts and intermediaries and introducers of people to what they do not see. The essence of an artist activity is to look at the world and say, it is not what it appears to be. Look at it differently, look at it in a different way. It is not what it appears to be. And that is the beginning of all change. And that is indeed what scientists do. And scientists say, this is not, God knows what this is, but whatever it's pretending to be, it's certainly not what it's pretending to be. And I think it's artificial fiber. What is fiber? Where does it come from? And so on. And ultimately it is electrons and things which we cannot see. And yesterday I did a talk by video conference with one of the biggest scientific research centers in France. And they are just starting a program of the relationship between science and art. How can science and art work together? They are thinking of how it can stimulate ideas. I think it's something which can work both ways. And I would like to get those artists among you to think about it, and those of you who are not in either science or art to say, how else can you be, how can you enter into this inevitable reconsideration of how the world works. Because being a historian, I see things from a sort of long perspective. And there are times when civilizations grow mellow and then grow weak and then just vanish. And most civilizations have vanished. And we just cannot imagine that our civilization will vanish. But every other one has vanished in the past, except the Chinese, who have survived with remarkable tenacity, but with great ups and downs. In the 19th century they were really down, and they felt they were being bashed up by the West, and they were drugged by the West. And the Opium Affair, and Britain did drug the Chinese, and then that is one of the causes of the profound nationalism which still exists there. So if one looks at this in a long way, one's got to see what causes a civilization like China to go up and then down, but to recover. And are we going to recover? We're talking about the double dip recession and so on. Are we going to make a bit more money of 0.5% growth? But that's not what is really important. It's whether we have ideas which make what we do and how we live attractive and interesting to the whole world, not just in our balance of payments. So this is what I want to put forward to you as the menu of this evening. And just before we start, I'm going to give you a little thing to think about. And you'll be able to, therefore, if you spend 5 minutes just thinking about what industries, what occupations could accept an experiment to see how else they could be. Why did IKEA agree to do this? Because they happened to meet me and they invited me to talk and they were interested, and one of their managers of their stores became interested and they said, okay, let's have a go. This might make my store more attractive to the community and link us to the community. And indeed it did, and children would come in and say, we want to learn how to play a musical instrument, and the refugees would come in and say, here, we want to come and practice our English. And it became something of a community center. So I want you to think from your experience, because each one of you is involved in some kind of work. And though this may seem so difficult to do, ultimately it's a very simple idea that you try something out which you haven't tried out before. So I'll give you 5 minutes to talk, to think with those who are near you. You're sitting in pairs, many of you. Just talk to somebody and rack your brains, and in 5 minutes we will have some answers from you. And then we will go on to the second part of the evening, which is a conversation between two people who have not met, have never met and don't know each other. I'll explain that in a while. But now just think for 5 minutes, and then we'll have a little discussion about things.